the arrest and prosecution of Mike Sonko. I think we have those pictures from Milimani court. Starting, Joe, with what looked like a very, very dramatic arrest, complete with a scream and a bite.
Oh, did you mean teeth bite?
Yes, not sound bite.
You know, because I think it was. I'm not sure whether it needed to be, but I think this has been a long time coming. If you think about the many times that Sonko has been to EACC, the many times he has been to Times Tower about tax issues and that sort of thing. So you could see the writing was on the wall. It was only going to it was not any longer a question of if, but rather when. I think that from where I sit, there's been considerable disquiet or discomfort in many places about how Nairobi has been running. And I think someone needed to find a smoking gun somewhere. And I think in these corruption cases that they're currently dealing with, they found that smoking gun. But there are many accounts as to how the governor of Nairobi ended up being on the road at that point in Voi. Some people saying, well, he was trying to flee and that sort of thing. And of course, Sonko is a drama king, if there is such a terminology. I mean, we've seen him, for example, I remember when he was MP for Makadara, he would punch walls and do all manner of things. There's a time he came with his group and they found his car had been clamped. I still remember it, somewhere on Kimathi Street. And he actually got these guys to literally break that clamp and he drove off. So he is someone who is not strange to drama, and it is not surprising, in my view, that his arrest on that day, on that Friday, had to have a bit of drama, and I think a bit is being modest here.
Now, Francis, not too long ago, governors demanded that they should be treated with dignity. They should be arrested nicely and with dignity. And it seems Inspector General Mutiambai and the police have responded because Sonko was actually airlifted to Nairobi. A helicopter was used, not the back of a pickup.
Yeah, but I also think there's also a question of how far or how much force can be used in such a situation. There's that principle of reasonable use of force. So how reasonable is reasonable? Because there have been all these complaints about the amount of force that was used against the governor. But not just the governor. I would also think maybe it is a good discussion for our leaders to also treat with seriousness questions and concerns from ordinary citizens who are harassed by law enforcers during such arrests every so often. Maybe if we demand better treatment for our leaders in times of arrest, if need be, then the same should be for ordinary citizens at any given time. I mean, these...
But surely, Francis, a helicopter is an upgrade, isn't it?
Probably it is. But what I'm asking is that if we demand better treatment for our leaders, then the same should be applied for ordinary citizens.
Personally, I think the helicopter...
Decorum and fair treatment for all is a fundamental thing. But I'm also interested in the management of the capital city of the Republic of Kenya, that is Nairobi City County Government. As it is now, there are all those questions that are being asked, so what way Nairobi, or which way Nairobi? Because Sonko doesn't have a deputy, has not had one in the last 2 years since the resignation of Polycarp Igathe. And there were all these concerns that probably the reason why he was not nominating a deputy was to insulate himself from prosecution by raising that question of, if you arrest him, if you prosecute him, so who will take charge? Maybe this is an opportunity for somebody to go to the Supreme Court and seek an advisory opinion on what happens when a governor is arrested and prosecuted over corruption matters and does not have a deputy. Even as I say so, I'm cognizant of the fact that on 20th of this month, the Court of Appeal will be telling us whether Justice Mombi Ngugi was spot on or not in that ruling that if you're a governor and you have been charged in a court of law over corruption, then you have to exit. You have to stay away from office and let your deputy run the show. But also the question of the presumption of innocent until proven guilty. And then secondly, what is a vacancy? What are the circumstances for a vacancy in a county government, and especially in the office of a governor?
I don't know about the debate on the vacancy, Joe, and I'll let you in on this one, because one presupposes that there was a way Nairobi was running before the arrest, and that it will change significantly after the arrest, because the reviews on Sonko's performance as governor have not been very complimentary, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. And I think for me, a system that allows a governor to stay for almost 2 years without a deputy must be a broken system. I mean, how can that happen? Unless we were saying that we didn't need a deputy governor in the first place. But for Nairobi, of all places, to have the post of deputy governor missing for two years, actually it has been since Igathe left. I think there's a problem with that. And I think Sonko knew about this. I mean, look at the kind of people he tried to propose for deputy governor. He knew those people, those names were not going to fly. He had Miguna's name at some point. He said he had spoken to him. Miguna said he didn't speak to him. I was surprised. I didn't think Miguna was going to even consider it. Then he came up with another name, said he was stalled by ODM that was requesting I don't know what. So there are games that he has been playing all along, and I think I tend to agree with Francis that he had this belief, which now it appears was mistaken, that without a deputy, and knowing the legal conundrum, because as Article 182 that everybody has been talking about, talks about a vacancy, that the Speaker of the County Assembly right now, Beatrice Elachi, would have been taking over if it was a vacancy. For example, Sonko had been jailed for instance, then
or impeached, or resigned,
for that matter, you know. So that kind of, or he had any kind of incapacity, then that would be a vacancy. But here, the Constitution does not seem to have anticipated a case where the governor and his deputy are both missing for long periods of time, but temporarily, and they are not out of office technically, but they are not able to discharge their functions. And that's something that I think has been compounded by Justice Mumbi Ngugi's determination that these people should stay out of office. So it's going to be an interesting thing to watch, but I think it just tells you that we have not taken the management of our city seriously, both as Nairobians, but I think also as the country in general. How can we have this kind of situation happening in Nairobi? Now we just had some heads of state and government coming. I don't know what they would go saying about Nairobi, because they must have picked it here and there.
But Linus, look at it this way. The Jubilee Party has a majority in Nairobi. So I also think it's failure on the part of the party, because if for 2 years the ruling party in Nairobi County government has not seen it fit to have the position of deputy governor filled up following the resignation of Polycarp Igathe, then I think there's a problem.
Maybe they
right.
like
I want us to discuss just a bit about the man, Mike Sonko himself, because the Standard newspaper screamed the other day, end of an era, basically suggesting that this could be the end for both the man and his style of leadership. But by no means is this to say that, is it really fair to say that he's been an unsuccessful politician, considering that he's been on short 9 years, 3 positions. He's been member of parliament 1 term, and then moving on, senator 1 term, and then governor 1 term until this arrest. He seems to have been a very successful mobilizer. He knows how to work the crowds. He knows how to gather numbers in the slums. The Sonko rescue team backing him up, backing his promises with actual action. There's no funeral in those slums that you don't hear his name. This has been a gifted politician, isn't it, Joe?
I think Sonko represents what is wrong with our politics. And it is true, yes, he has been a successful politician. If success here means that he knows how to get himself elected. And how does Sonko get himself elected? He knows that our politics is based on the very basic fundamental things that we need to be alive, basically. I mean, this is the guy who would go to Mukuru slums, for example, and find a family that cannot raise some money for some young boy to go to the nearby clinic, or there's a prescription, they can't buy medicine. He will find a group that is waiting for Godot to get a coffin to take someone to the village, or some mother who needs school fees for their child, and he will deal with it. Those are the basic problems that people are dealing with every day. And you know, many people come and say, oh, I'll build a road, I'll build a hospital. All those things can be great, but people don't see the immediate need. That tells you that we are still at that level where people's problems are very personal, they're very basic. So people don't resonate very well with big projects that appear to help everybody. Yet I don't know what I'm going to eat next. So he knows how to do that. And that is what we are dealing with here. And also, at another level, I think Sonko also represents, he fits in that larger pattern that we have seen in Nairobi over the years. Linus, you've covered politics for many years, and you know this is the city that has produced David Mwenje. This is the city that has produced Fred Omulo Gumo. This is the city that has produced Simon Mbugua. This is the city that has produced Ruben Ndolo of the Weka Tire. So this is a city that is known to produce those kinds of politicians. And it is the height of irony, in my view, in a city where people appear to be more educated than the rest of the country, in a city where people are presumably more exposed, that we would actually be ending up with leaders of this sort, leaders that you would actually say do not match with the kind of people that live here. And someone says that if we don't present ourselves to be elected, then we will actually be ruled by people who think less than we do.
Francis, very true that Nairobi has produced quite a lot in the list that Joe has taken us through, but none with the kind of deep pockets that Sonko seems to have. None with this kind of controversial style, flashy, bling-bling, display of gold, and basically display of opulence and wealth and money, whose source, Francis, nobody knows.
But that style of politics works for him. I mean, Nairobians opted for Sonko with his glitz and glamour, as opposed to Dr. Kidero with his well-cut suits and ties. I mean, people had a choice. There was also Peter Kenneth. It is not that Sonko...
Even Miguna, by the way.
There was also Miguna. It's not that he forced his way into office. I mean, when 1 million or thereabout registered voters queued for hours and voted for him, it was their choice. I mean, those are the choices that they made at the ballot. So, I mean, it would also be dishonest of Nairobians to blame him or to accuse him, because they knew the kind of a person he was. They knew the kind of a person they were voting for. So it is those choices at the ballot. And so he's happy to exercise his style of politics. And every so often when you interview him, he says he's not about to change his style of politics, because that is what makes him resonate with the masses on the ground.
Joe?
I think in a few words, it's what someone called, if it is actually a very bad thing, it's deserved misfortune.
Right.
Interesting. Anyway, now we have to take it home. It's been